what I've read, and some books that I will be reading, kind of like a book haul. This is kind of a part of a bigger series that I have here on my channel. So if you liked this video, I will link a playlist to my other book videos. It is thundering really hard outside, but I am in a soundproof studio, so it kind of just sounds weird. So I'm going to be putting some rain sounds over this video to make it feel a little more cozy and less scary. I think books and ASMR are the perfect combination. I love book triggers, so I will make sure to include a lot of page turning, reading, tapping, gripping, things like that. And hand sounds, of course. So go ahead, sit back and relax. Maybe grab a cup of tea, or just use this as background sound. And after the video, please let me know what you are reading and if you recommend it. Alright, let's start with the book that I am currently reading. This is Stoner by John Williams. I have heard so many good things about this book. It's many people's favorite book, and I've noticed that many people who loved East of Eden or Steinbeck in general also love this book. And East of Eden is one of my favorite books of all time. I'm about a quarter through this book. I really hope that thunder is not too distracting. And it starts off pretty slow, but the writing is beautiful so far. Let me read you the back. William Stoner is born at the end of the 19th century into a dirt-poor Missouri farming family. Sent to the state university to study agronomy, he instead falls in love with English literature and embraces a scholar's life, so different from the hard-scrabble existence he has known. And yet, as the years pass, Stoner encounters a succession of disappointments. Marriage into a proper family estranges him from his parents. His career is stymied. His wife and daughter turn coldly away from him. A transforming experience of new love ends under threat of scandal. Driven ever deeper within himself, Stoner rediscovers stoic silence of his forebears and confronts an essential solitude. One review says, Stoner is something rarer than a great novel. It is a perfect novel, so well told and beautifully written, so deeply moving that it takes your breath away. Another says, once in a while a novel comes along that is so remarkable in its quality that it stands out not only as an example of what well-written fiction should be, but also as a satisfying reading experience all by itself. We're actually reading this book in my Patreon's book club, and everybody seems to be really enjoying it too. I'm only about this far into it so far. When I learned that this book was a classic, I thought it would be a lot thicker, but it's really not too long. I feel like you could read it in a week or two. So my biggest question is if this will end up being one of my favorite books. So I have very, 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 very high hopes. Let me read the first paragraph. William Stoner entered the University of Missouri as a freshman in the year 1910 at the age of 19. 8 years later, during the height of World War I, he received his Doctor of Philosophy degree and accepted an instructorship at the same university, where he taught until his death in 1956. He did not rise above the rank of assistant professor, and few students remembered him with any sharpness after they had taken his courses. When he died, his colleagues made a memorial contribution of a medieval manuscript to the university library. This manuscript may be still found in the Rare Books collection, bearing the inscription, presented to the Library of the University of Missouri in memory of William Stoner, Department of English, by his colleagues. I think it's a really interesting choice to have the main character be not all that remarkable, at least from what I know so far. I'm really curious what he's gonna do or what's going to happen to him that makes his story worth being told. that I've read recently. This is The Once and Future King by T.H. White. This is a big book, and it's even bigger when you see how small the text is. This book has been through a lot, obviously. I took it to the beach, and it got wet, and kind of disintegrated. I normally take better care of my books, but it's just such a small paperback, and I wasn't sure how I would like it. To my surprise, this is officially one of my favorite books. It's a King Arthur retelling. I would even say that it is the King Arthur story retelling in the modern age, though it was written in like the 40s or 50s, maybe the 30s. And despite it being kind of old, I found it super funny, with a lot of wisdom that is applicable to any time. It's split up into, I believe, 3 mini books. 4. The first is The Sword in the Stone, which, yes, it is what the Disney movie is based off of. And then we have The Queen of Air and Darkness, The Ill-Made Knight, and The Candle in the Wind. There's a little review by Ursula Le Guin here. I have laughed at White's great Arthurian novel and cried over it and loved it all my life. The world's greatest fantasy classic. T.H. White's masterful retelling of the saga of King Arthur is a fantasy classic as legendary as Excalibur and Camelot. A poignant story of adventure, romance, and magic that has enchanted readers for generations. This book does something that I love in stories, where in the beginning the protagonist is young and the feel of the story is lighthearted, and as the protagonist ages, the story gets darker and more mature. Even TV shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender or Adventure Time are kind of like this, and I love it. There's something so good about starting off lighthearted, because it makes the serious moments that much better and more impactful. upon a time, a young boy called Wart was tutored by a magician named Merlin in preparation for a future he couldn't possibly imagine. A future in which he would ally himself with the greatest knights, love a legendary queen, and unite a country dedicated to chivalrous values. A future that would see him crowned and known for all time as Arthur, King of the Britons. Let me read a random page. Merlin stopped talking and looked at the wart in an anxious way. Have I told you this before? No, we only met about half an hour ago. So little time to pass, said Merlin, and a big tear ran down to the end of his nose. He wiped it off with his pajamas and added anxiously, am I going to tell you it again? I do not know, said the wart, unless you had not finished telling me yet. You see, one gets confused with time when it is like that. All one's tenses get muddled for one thing. If you know what is going to happen to people and not what has happened to them, it makes it difficult to prevent it happening. If you don't want it to have happened, if you see what I mean, like drawing in a mirror. The wart did not quite see, but was just going to say that he was sorry for Merlin if these things made him unhappy, when he felt a curious sensation at his ear. Don't jump, said the old man, just as he was going to do so, and the wart sat still. Archimedes, who had been standing forgotten on his shoulder all this time, was gently touching himself against him. His beak was right on the lobe of his ear, which its bristles made to tickle, and suddenly a soft, hoarse voice whispered, how do you do? So that it sounded right inside his head. Oh, owl, cried the wart, forgetting about Merlin's troubles instantly. Look, he has decided to talk to me. That scene was from the first meeting between Merlin and the wart, and Merlin was crying because time moves backwards for him. So even though he had only met King Arthur 30 minutes ago, for him it meant that he only had 30 minutes left. So yeah, highly recommend it. Beautifully written. I just loved this book. This book is called A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan. And it was a Pulitzer Prize winner. I can honestly say that I haven't really read a book like this before. I almost don't want to tell you the premise behind the style because I feel like it's kind of a fun surprise. But let's just say that every chapter is different and yet connected to each other. I really, really like this book. It was pretty quick. novel, fiction. In fact, all of the books I talk about in this installment of my book ASMR series are fiction. So the reason it has an uncreased spine is I read it on my Kindle first. I rented it on Libby and liked it so much that I bought a copy. The synopsis is: Benny is an aging former punk rocker and record executive. Sasha is the passionate, troubled young woman he employs. Here, Jennifer Egan brilliantly reveals their past, along with the inner lives of a host of other characters whose paths intersect with theirs. With music pulsing on every page, A Visit from the Goon Squad is a startling, exhilarating novel of self-destruction and redemption. I really liked that music and the music industry was a huge focus in this book. So if you're into music, making music, loving music, music production, I think you would enjoy this. That's one part with pictures. Or diagrams, PowerPoint slides, I should say. It was just really well done, really creative, kind of experimental. And I actually bought the second book recently. It's kind of, from what I know, an unofficial sequel. I don't have it with me today, but you will be seeing it in a future video for sure. This wasn't like one of my favorite books of all time, but I really liked it. This book I'm going to be tapping on my Kindle because I read it again on Libby, and it is Beautyland by Marie Helene Bertino. And I'll show you the cover in a second. It's another fiction book that I read very quickly. I liked it a lot. I think I liked it a little less than the Goon Squad one, but it was a refreshing, introspective read, and I'll tell you more about it. Now, I have the cover here we got returned to the library, and there's a line to get it back, so this will do for now. And I'm going to find the synopsis. So it's science fiction, and it is a wise, tender novel about a woman who doesn't feel at home on Earth. I'm on the Goodreads page. At the moment when Voyager 1 is launched into space carrying its famous golden record, a baby of unusual perception is born to a single mother in Philadelphia. Adina is tiny and jaundiced, but she reaches for warmth and light. As a child, she recognizes that she is different. She possesses knowledge of a faraway planet. The arrival of a fax machine enables her to contact her extraterrestrial relatives, beings who have sent her to report on the oddities of Earthlings. Beautyland is a novel of startling originality about the fragility and resilience of life on our Earth and in our universe. It is a remarkable evocation of the feeling of being in exile at home, and it introduces a gentle, unforgettable alien for our times. So yeah, it's basically, it has a protagonist who is or believes she's an alien. And the premise of the book is noting things about everyday, ordinary human life. And I think that's where the book shined. It really makes you slow down and think about life. So I liked it. It wasn't that heavy on the science fiction element, surprisingly. It's almost like a Bildungsroman, where it's a story of a girl who feels very out of place and her life growing up. So I really liked it. I would give it like a 4 out of 5. With Goon Squad being like 4.25 out of 5. So now I'm going to move on to just 2 books that I plan on reading very soon. The first is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. If you are a high fantasy lover, you have almost definitely heard of this book or of Robin Hobb. It is the first book of the epic Farseer trilogy. And you have a blurb by George R.R. Martin right off the bat, saying fantasy as it ought to be written. Her books are diamonds in a sea of zircon. I'm gonna be honest, I do not know almost anything about the plot of this book, besides that the protagonist fits. People either love him or don't like him, so I'm curious. I think that I'll like him because I love a flawed protagonist. It is high fantasy, and I'm going to read the back for the first time, so we are experiencing this together. Young Fitz is the bastard son of the noble Prince Chivalry, raised in the shadow of the royal court by his father's gruff stableman. Fitz is treated as an outcast by all the royalty except the devious King Shrewd, who has him secretly tutored in the arts of the assassin. For in Fitz's blood runs the magic skill and the darker knowledge of a child raised with the stable hounds and rejected by his family. As barbarous raiders ravage the coast, Fitz is growing to manhood. Soon he will face his first dangerous, soul-shattering mission, and though some regard him as a threat to the throne, he may just be the key to the survival of the kingdom. I have been really craving a long, multi-book fantasy series, and so I hope that this scratches the itch. I'm not going to read any pages because I don't want to spoil it for myself selfishly. So I am very excited about this. My last book is another T.H. White book, the Book of Merlyn. So, in The Once and Future King, it ends kind of at a climatic point, and I was surprised that the book would end there, even though I liked it. But I learned that there was another book in the series, the true last chapter of The Once and Future King. I don't know why this one gets sold separately, but I'm very happy to learn that there's kind of a continuation of this book that I loved so much. And I don't know how much to tell you about this book without spoiling the other. But let's just say I am very excited. It's very little. Oh, and it has illustrations, which is, I love a book with illustrations. Oh, that's so nice. So, I'm very excited for this. It's not that exciting to talk about, though, unfortunately, because I kind of feel like it's just part 2 of a book that I already talked about, but oh well. I also have that second book, To a Visit from the Goon Squad, that I'm looking forward to reading. I wonder who illustrated this. that is all for this installment. It finally stopped raining or thundering. We had a flash flood warning for a second there, but it was okay in the end. So thank you so much